Good morning to all the students in the Department of the Physiology, Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College, a constituent college of the Datta Mege Institute of Medical Sciences, Deemed University, Savangi Mege, Varda. I am Dr. V.K. Deshpande, Professor, Director and the Head of the Department of the Physiology. Now today we will be learning on the action potential in the excitable tissues. The action potential in the excitable tissue, the examples are the muscles, the nerves are the commonest excitable tissue. Next. Purpose of statement for today's event, for today's learning. At the end of this class, the student shall be able to describe the phase and the ionic basis of the action potential. The following are the learning objectives. Number 1, define action potential is in the cognitive domain and it is a must know. Second, describe the resting membrane potential. It is also in the cognitive domain and must know criteria. The describe the method of recording of action potential is in the cognitive and must know. Enumerate the different phases of action potential in the cognitive. Discuss the ionic basis of action potential cognitive. And explain the voltage clamp technique are the following learning objectives for today's class. The introduction, when the stimulus is applied, the action potential is produced. The stimulus may be, what can be, maybe electrical, maybe a chemical or a mechanical stimulus. But in electrophysiology, most of the time we have to select the electrical stimulus because it can be easily graded. For example, from the millivolts to volts. There are two types of the physico-chemical disturbances are produced. One is a local non-propagated potential called, depending upon their location, they are known as synaptic, generator or electrical potentials. The propagated disturbance is the action potential. Then action potential, what is the definition of the action potential? The action potential is a rapid change in the membrane potential during which the membrane rapidly depolarizes and repolarizes. The transmembrane potential. The transmembrane potential we can record when one electrode is inserted into the interior of the cell and other is placed on the surface. A constant potential difference is observed between the inside and the outside of the cell. At the rest, we call it the resting membrane potential. Arrangement of the recording of the action potential from a case of a nerve. What do you see here? One electrode is being kept on the surface of the cell membrane and other is inserted inside the neuron. And moment that inside the neuron we insert it and we record in a CRO a deflection about -70 millivolt. This is what in resting state, what we record is the resting membrane potential in the resting tissue. For example, in excitable tissue, examples are the nerve and muscles. Definition. What can be the definition of the resting membrane potential? One of the easiest definition of the resting membrane potential. All living cells have an electrical potential or voltage across their outer membranes. This voltage called resting membrane potential. It is created by ions inside and outside of the cell. Resting membrane potential is a difference potential across the cell membrane. The inside of the cell shows a negativity. The magnitude of it is approximately -70 millivolt in a case of a nerve. The inside of the cell is negative and the resting membrane potential is -70 millivolt. The causes of the resting membrane potential to be discussed, the number one important and the foremost important cause is ionic basis. The factors contributing to the uneven distribution of the ion, number one, is the selective permeability of certain ions. For example, the cell membrane is more permeable to potassium as compared to sodium. It is approximately 50 to 100 times more permeable to potassium as compared to sodium. The second important is the sodium-potassium pump. The sodium-potassium pump is also contributing to the resting membrane potential. And lastly, the negatively charged proteins, what we call the anions, also contribute to the negativity inside the cell. The concentration of the ions inside and outside in the intracellular fluid and the extracellular fluid. But we find that the sodium is less in the intracellular fluid, where the more sodium is present in the extracellular fluid. The potassium is what we find is more in the intracellular fluid, whereas potassium is less in the extracellular fluid, that is 4.5 to 5.5 milliequivalent per liter. The chloride concentration in the intracellular fluid, it is approximately minus 9 milliequivalent per liter, whereas the chloride is in the extracellular fluid is 110 milliequivalent per liter. Resting membrane potential is diffusion potential of potassium. The cell membrane is more permeable to potassium, approximately 100 times more permeable as compared to sodium. As the concentration of potassium is more inside to outside, a continuous diffusion of the potassium leading to cause negativity inside the cell. Julius Bernstein rightly called, in his membrane hypothesis, explained the resting membrane potential of a nerve muscle as a diffusion potential of potassium. Another important cause for the negativity inside the cell is the sodium-potassium pump. The sodium-potassium pump transports sodium-potassium ATPase or pump catalyzes the hydrolysis of the ATP and uses energy to exclude 3 sodium from inside of the cell and take 2 potassium inside the cell, and that's what we call it. It is an electrogenic pump. Here is a diagram showing the sodium-potassium pump. That the 2 proteins are important. They are through and through proteins are there. One is the alpha 1 through and through proteins, and the beta 1. And the following sites are present on the alpha. One is for the sodium, another is for the phosphorylation, that is this one, and for this one for the ATP binding, this second one for the potassium, and third one for the UA vein. The sodium-potassium pump transport 3 sodium outside and brings 2 potassium inside, and making the cell more negative inside the cell. The intracellular proteins is another cause of the negativity inside the cell. The presence of the intracellular protein, which cannot diffuse through the cell membrane, are negatively charged anions. The action potential. The action potential provides long distance transmission of information through the nervous system. The action potential occurs in the excitable membrane. Examples are the muscle nerves and the nerve cells, because these membranes contain voltage-gated sodium channels, which open as the membrane depolarizes, causing a positive feedback towards the sodium equilibrium potential. Recording of an action potential using cathode ray oscilloscope. An action potential takes less than 1/1000 second, that means approximately 1 millisecond. So an extremely rapid responding meter is required for recording the action potential. The CRO is capable of responding accurately to the rapid membrane potential changes. This is a diagram showing a cathode ray oscilloscope. Has a following part. In a vacuum tube, what we create, a cathode and anode is applied, and anode what you find with a small hole, and a power, with the help of a generator, a high voltage applied along a cathode and an anode. An electron beam which is passing through the hole strikes on a screen which is coated with a scintillating substance, for example, the phosphorus. And when it strikes, it emits the light. Now this beam, on either side of the beam, there is an arrangement of the X plates, and these plates are attached to a sweep generator which generate a sawtooth type of voltage. Because of generation of the sawtooth types of the voltage, this is a negatively charged beam is there produced, the negative plate repels it, and at the same time the positive plate attracts it. Because of that, this characteristics of these plates, that is the X plates applied on the either side of the beam, naturally the beam starts moving from left to right as the voltage is increasing with the help of a sweep generator. The moment we find that the beam is coming to the extreme to the right, again voltage is dropped and beam snatched back its original position, that is on the left side. There is another arrangement, that is the Y plates. The Y plates, one plate is kept above the beam and one plate is kept below the beam, and they are attached to an amplifier, which amplifies the biological currents which are recorded from the excitable tissue. In this case, we have selected now. This is the typical arrangement of the electrodes. So whole unit is demonstrating the cathode ray oscilloscope. This is one of the most important component required to record the action potential. Another important instruments which are required for the development of for recording the action potential are the microelectrodes. The microelectrodes, they are having the tip less than 1 micron, and these, when they are inserted inside the cell, they do not cause any damage to cell wall because their diameter is approximately less than 1 micron. So this innovation has led us to record the action potential from inside of the cell. The second, the development of the modern amplifier can magnify the potential changes approximately 1,000 times or more, with a capacity to eliminate other noises. This is one of the most latest innovations regarding the modern amplifier is concerned. Recording from the single neuron, a giant unmyelinated nerve cell, we can find it out as all human axons. What we find is that their diameter is less than 20 micron. But in a case of a squid, that is a loligo, and the crabs, that is a carcinus, their the neuron is taken having a diameter approximately 1 millimeter or 50 times more than the diameter of an axon in a case of a mammalian or human beings. Now this is a record of the action potential after setting the instrumentation. The stimulator is applied to stimulate a nerve, as being shown. That these two stimulating electrodes are being shown, and this is the recording electrode to which the cathode oscilloscope is attached. The following events we record in action potential. Initially we record is a resting membrane potential. The resting membrane potential is, in a case of a nerve, is approximately minus 70 millivolt. The moment we apply a stimulus artifact is being recorded because of the direct leakage of the current from the stimulating electrode to the recording electrode. This we can see at the baseline, that is at the resting membrane potential. A artifact is recorded. It is taken as a point of a stimulus. Then we get another area, a period of a silent area. There is no potential change. That is the resting membrane potential. And again a point comes where there is a slow rise in the potential. The area where we find from the stimulus artifact to a change in the potential, what we call this portion is a latent period. A slow rise of the potential we observe is up to the minus 55 millivolt. This is what we call as the firing level or threshold level. Once the potential reaches to the level of minus 55, there is a sudden firing and there is a potential overshoots the zero and reaches to the plus 35 and forms the spike. This is what we call as the overshoot, and again the repolarization occur, again fall in the potential. The rise in the potential inside the cell is known as depolarization, and the fall from plus 35, the process is known as repolarization. After the repolarization, what we find that there is a slow fall in the repolarization, and the space, once the repolarization approximately 70% completed, that we find the rest 30% of the phase require little bit more time to fall in the potential, and this phase is known as after depolarization. This next phase, what we observe in the action potential, that the recording comes below the resting membrane potential for some time, and this is what we call is after hyperpolarization. So following are the events. The following events are recorded in the action potential. Again I am repeating: the stimulus artifact, the latent period, the firing level, the phase, the depolarization, we define the depolarization and the repolarization forming the spike, after depolarization and after hyperpolarization. After hyperpolarization, the potential is coming below minus 70 millivolt. The whole of the event is recorded in the milliseconds. As you find the depolarization and the repolarization getting completed within the 5 milliseconds, and the rest is a period what you find is being prolonged. That is the hyperpolarization takes approximately 5 more milliseconds and switches it to the 10 millivolt. So further the events are recorded. They are the resting membrane potential, the stimulus artifact, latent period, firing level, depolarization, repolarization, after depolarization and after hyperpolarization. The following events are recorded in the action potential. Now coming to the next, the ionic basis of the action potential. When the adequate stimulus is applied to a nerve or to an excitable tissue, for example a muscle. Now because of it, as it reaches to the threshold value, what causes the opening of the voltage gated sodium channels get activated, or opening or get activated, and the firing level as it reaches the voltage activated sodium channel overwhelm the potassium channels. There is a rapid change in the permeability because of a small change in the voltage and other channels leading to the production of a spike potential. As what we find here, the sodium permeability has sudden change because of the opening of the voltage gated sodium channel. The equilibrium potential of the sodium, that is a plus 60 millivolt, must reach. But what it doesn't reach to a 60 millivolt minus 60. Reason is this: the membrane potential moves towards the value but does not reach it during the action potential. Reason are following: because the activation of the sodium channel is a short-lived process and is for a few milliseconds. The direction of the electrical gradient of the sodium is reversed. That means inside is becoming more positive, and the third contributing factor that doesn't allow it to reach to the plus 60 millivolt is the reason, that is the equilibrium potential of the sodium. The third factor producing repolarization is the opening of the voltage gated potassium channel. As the voltage gated potassium channels are open, the potassium is moving from inside to outside, causing the fall in the potential again inside the cell. The process of depolarization is so rapidly completing because of the opening of the voltage-gated sodium channels, which lead to the increased conductance of the sodium or permeability of the sodium, which further increases sodium in the cell and further causes more and more depolarization. This is a positive feedback mechanism. This positive feedback mechanism is responsible for a rapid change during the depolarization. That is what being demonstrated is in this diagram. What we find, the following state of the sodium channel. These are the through and through proteins, and they are very specific, where you find that the sodium is in inactive state, that is its gate is closed, and this is a activated state where we see here that is the sodium is continuously from outside to coming inside because of the sodium gradient. As sodium is more outside, it is coming through this channel and through this here inside it, and it is an inactivated state of the sodium channel. So the doors are closed and further. So the three states are there, and so what we find, because of the activation of the sodium channel, the sodium entry is there. But the process of activation of the sodium channel is a short-lived process, and within a millisecond it is getting inactivated, closes, and this time potential is reached to plus 35 to. Now here what we find here, it is a demonstration, a typical demonstration of the resting in a resting membrane potential. The potassium channels are in a state of closure or inactivated state, and what we find during this production of the action potential, there is a slow activation of the potassium channels and leading to opening of the potassium, and so the potassium from inside goes to outside through the potassium channels and causing the repolarization. The depolarization is the opening of the voltage-gated potassium channel is slower and more prolonged than the opening of the sodium channel. The increase in the potassium conductance comes after the increase in the sodium conductance. The net movement of the positive charge out of the cell due to the potassium efflux lead to the repolarization. So what we have seen, another state then after the repolarization is the phase the after depolarization. At the termination of the spike potential, the potassium conduction is slowed down. There's a few milliseconds are delayed to restore resting membrane potential, which is called as after depolarization. After hyperpolarization, another phase we have seen, the closing of voltage-gated potassium channel is both voltage and time dependent, so they are delayed. They have a delayed response, so they are called delayed rectifier potassium channels, and potassium continues to flow outside of the cell, causing undershoot or a process what we call as a hyperpolarization or potential coming below the resting membrane potential. This is what is in a diagram being shown, the conductance of the sodium and potassium during the action potential. This is a diagram showing the action potential, and this is the sodium conductance, and this is the potassium conductance. Why we call them the conductance? Because the cell membrane is conducting the ionic current and is a conductor of the sodium and the potassium as they are carrying the current. But we find the opening, this is the time duration being demonstrated here or depicted. So within what we find, the opening of the sodium channel or sodium current or the sodium conductance across the cell membrane gets completed is less than the time 1 millisecond. And what we find, the potassium channel, a delayed opening of the potassium channel or potassium conductance, and a peak of it reaches during the repolarization, and again we find there is a slower closing of the potassium channels and so decreasing potassium conductance. This is a typical demonstration of the behavior of the two channels, that is the sodium sodium potential gated channel and the sodium gated channel and the potassium gated channels, voltage gated channels. The sodium, what we find during the depolarization, the sodium is entering inside the cell, and what we find that during the repolarization, here there is the opening of the potassium channels and potassium is moving from inside to outside, and this is causing further repolarization. And here both the states of the sodium, that is, it is a closed one being there, and here also inactivated potassium channels, and it is inactivated sodium channel. This is what we see here, the inactivation of the sodium channel here. What we find is an earlier closure depicted here, and when we find the same time that the potassium channels are still open. So delayed closure of the potassium channels and the slow opening of the potassium channels is responsible for the repolarization. Now coming to to understand all of this, we have a newer technique, that is a voltage clamp technique to record, to understand the ionic basis of the action potential. In this technique, it's used for the research purposes, invented by the Hodgkin and the Huxley in the year 1958. The instrumentation of this here in a nerve axon, what we find, then the two electrodes are inserted inside. One electrode here doing a function to, it adds the current inside the cell, and the second electrode is a recording electrode. So current adding electrode and the recording electrodes are being depicted here. Another outside electrode is measuring the current. Here it is measuring the current inside, and this is called as a voltage clamp technique. The desired voltage is clamped for a few milliseconds, and the behavior of the current is being noted, and the type of current is also being recorded in this technique. And this technique is known as voltage clamp technique. That means clamping the voltage at a desired value and then observing the flow of the current, whether it is coming outside from the nerve fiber or from axon, coming from inside to outside, or coming from outside to inside, being measured. This is a typical behavior being depicted on a graph. That in this technique, what we find here, the resting membrane potential is at the level of the minus 90 millivolt. For a desired value, a potential is clamped at a value of the 10 millivolt. Here for 0 to 1 to 2 seconds. Now when we clamp this 10 millivolt value in a voltage clamp technique for this 2 millisecond portion, and we note down the behavior of the sodium channels and behavior of the potassium channels. What we find then, as the potential is brought to by clamping the voltage at 10 millivolt, immediately there is an activation of the sodium channel, a typical behavior what we find, and within less than 1 millisecond, an activation occurs. And sodium current is recorded for less than one millisecond. Now on the next step, when we have clamped a value at 10 millivolt, a typical behavior, that is the activation of the potassium channel, what we find that the slow rise in the current of potassium, and a continuous flow of the potassium is being demonstrated. The current is being recorded till the value, that is the 10 millivolt depolarizing current, is being measured. Now this is a slow current which is slowly appears to be increasing and remains constant for a longer time. Then the potential, as being declamped to its original value, it leads to further fall in the potential. What we observe, the potassium current is being immediately dropped and comes to a normal value. A typical behavior, the two currents can be studied in the voltage clamp technique. Further, it can be strengthened by that the sodium channels can be blocked by a toxin, what we call as the tetrodotoxin or TTX, which blocks the sodium channels. At the same time, the sodium current will disappear. But at the same time, if the tetraethyl ammonium is applied from inside of the axon, then naturally the potassium current will be blocked, and so the absence of these currents in presence of the sodium, the absence of the sodium current, and in the presence of the tetraethyl ammonium, we can note that the potassium current is absent. So further confirmation can be made by modifying this voltage clamp technique by applying the tetrodotoxin and tetraethyl ammonium. We can understand the behavior of these channels as being demonstrated. So now coming to the next one, the summary, we are coming to the summary. That is the phases of the action potential we have discussed. The stimulation, what we find, the stimulation, rising phase or the depolarization, then the overshoot, the peak after depolarization and undershoot. The action potential is recorded with the help of the cathode ray oscilloscope. We have understood it, the ionic basis of the action potential. We have discussed that how the behavior of the two important ions, the sodium and the potassium, and we have discussed the latest one, the voltage clamp technique. The voltage clamp technique depicts a typical behavior of the sodium and the potassium current during the production of the action potential. Thank you very much.